Welcome to One on One. I'm Vernon Ramazar. My guest today is actually a very dear friend and a celebrated local artist, Peter Sheppard. Peter, I've been trying to get you on this program for years now, and it's funny that somebody I know so well has been so reluctant.
I've been hiding from you.
Well, I can't blame you. But anyhow, we got you here because you've got another one of your shows on. And basically, it's almost an annual event for you.
Correct.
A few years have been sort of not quite annual, but right now we've got In My Small World. Little World, which is now showing at the 101 Art Gallery, which is now at in Federation Park.
Correct.
For those who haven't been to an art gallery in a long time, it's no longer in Tragarete Road. I want to talk about your art, and we have some examples we're going to show, because I've been following your work over the years, as have all your friends, and in fact your fans now.
Yeah.
And we've seen you evolve from somebody who started off dabbling, knowing the fact that you're from an artistic family, dabbling in painting. You'd gone to art school, trying to find your expression in terms of what your style was and what your look was. From somebody who was uncomfortable to somebody now who is so totally comfortable with painting that to you it's just par for the course. Your journey as an artist, I mean, has it been something about finding yourself, finding your expression? I mean, and are you where you want to be right now?
Let's just start by saying that, you know, the expression is I have art in my blood. So I grew up in a house where both my parents were painting around me. And there was no Christmas or birthday that was without a gift of canvas and paints. Since I was stealing theirs, they thought they would give me some of my own so I can, you know, start painting, and that was from very early on. And I guess as I went through school, I was keen on art, and when I left school, I ended up working in the travel industry. And even during that time, I would still paint on the side, and whoever, you know, the tourists that I encountered in my work would get knowledge of my paintings, and they would offer to buy them, and that's really where the first sales, you know, began.
Well, I was going to say, you went to art school in Florida.
Yes.
But there were times, I guess, when you were not just trying to find your voice, but trying to find some way of making a living out of it as well. Because quite often artists in Trinidad cannot make a living.
Right.
I recall, and this may make you cringe a little bit, some coconut heads many years ago when you were doing stuff.
No, you did not say coconut heads, because I've tried to
but
seek
they were
therapy.
pretty amazing. They were like masks that you had done with coconut shells.
I actually, at one point, would go to Hilo and buy coconut shells and saw them in half, scoop out the insides, and paint faces of West Indian women on the faces of the coconut shells.
But in case people think, because we're used to going to like tourist places and seeing these sort of very vague or standard pictures of faces with two eyes and a nose. These were people and people shrieking and women, obviously with personality.
Because we are lively people here in Trinidad and Tobago, so they had great expression on their faces. And I think it was the tourist board at one point had made, or was it the Hilton? The Hilton had placed an order, this big order. They were going to the World Travel Market or to something in Germany, and they wanted to give all of these coconut heads as tokens from Trinidad and Tobago.
And you foolishly said yes.
And I said yes, and I also said at the end of that order that was the end of me and my coconut heads. Moving on.
This is as you were moving along in that, you realized that you perhaps bitten off more than you can chew in terms of your emotional state. but somewhere after that and in and around that, you also found that your passion is for, well, something that I know you love, which is this country and the landscapes of this country. And I've gone on many, in fact, I wouldn't know half of this country if I hadn't gone on hikes with you.
Right.
You've discovered a passion for painting the landscapes, but not the way that we're used to seeing landscapes painted, because they're landscapes from your head, they're imaginary landscapes.
Exactly. I go many times, you know, and to visit a river on a day, or just driving aimlessly through the Northern Range, or through Central, Deep South, whatever. And I'm very observant of where I go. And I don't sit down and sketch specifics, but I retain a lot of what I see, and I feel a lot of where I am. So I come home, and when I start to paint, I kind of refer to that rather than referring to a photograph of an actual location. So if I'm painting something central, I know in central it's beautiful undulating land, lots of sugarcane fields. And so I would use those elements in my painting, but to say that I can take you to a scene that you have seen in one of my paintings and say this is where I have painted, that doesn't exist.
Well, what I always find ironic is that, for example, even before you came in here, my production assistant, Heidi, was looking at one of your paintings and said, I know this place. Is this Santa Cruz or somewhere?
So many people say that. So many people, when they look at one of my paintings and they say, oh, I know where that is. That is up in Santa Cruz, or that's in Toco or somewhere. And the next person comes in and says the same thing, but they have said it about, you know, somewhere else. I know that location in Tobago. And that's just an example that the places are very typical of what we see in our environment, in our general landscape, but they don't actually exist, but they kind of conjure up this nostalgic feeling of something we have seen somewhere in our past.
And if somebody hasn't had the benefit of seeing some of your work, I know Rodney and Moses will run some of them for us,
Right.
just so we can have a glance. But perhaps isn't what you're doing what art is all about, which is anybody can paint a landscape that they see and a house that they saw. But you are not just going figuratively. It is a figurative painting, but you're interpreting it through the eyes of the artist.
I'm interpreting something that's a feeling, right? I believe that in every aspect of your work, of one's work, you must work with a certain degree of passion. And so passion I have, and I put a lot of that into my painting, and my passion, my love for Trinidad and Tobago. Now, I have moved away from Trinidad and tried to paint outside of Trinidad, and it doesn't work the same way as when I'm home. When I'm home here in Trinidad, it just flows like the rivers flow in the Northern Range. You know, it just all comes out. And I'm influenced so much by just everything that I see in my whole range of vision, and everything that I taste in all of our foods and hear in all of our music. It just all comes together and feeds through me, and I like to put that out on canvas.
So you interpret our island, and in turn, people who admire your work or who buy your work, there's something in that interpretation that resonates with them, isn't there?
Yeah, I mean, people, I look at the people when they stand up and they're enjoying a particular piece, and they kind of tilt their head, and you could see that they're sort of going back in time to somewhere. They're remembering maybe their childhood or a time when they were driving the same way I do, drive in the countryside, and a little smile emerges on their face, and it's really kind of a nostalgic or romantic way of appreciating art. And it gives me great pride to see people enjoy it the same way that I enjoy it while I'm painting it.
Well, what is interesting to me is you mentioned